Really delighted to welcome Amir back to the LSA, a graduate from 2-3 years ago, I think now. Seems like an age. An award-winning architectural designer. Since completing your part 2 here, Amir, and working in several London practices, you have co-founded aihub.ai, and you're going to, or aihub.ai, you're going to tell me in a minute how to really correctly pronounce the title, and now lead your own studio, E10. Amir's workshops have already helped over 300 designers from 17 countries around the globe. Amir has received a special mention in the 2023 Architecture Vision Awards. His talk today will question a future where mixed reality really is not just a novelty, but an integrated part of everyday life. In this world, the boundary between the virtual and the physical fades away, or that's the plan anyway, creating new possibilities for work, art, entertainment, and connection. It beckons interdisciplinary visionaries to harness technology to craft spaces that transcend the human imagination. So quite uncharacteristically, I think, for this week, we are really entering the virtual world or a mixed reality world. So many of our talks are very much about the physical built world and the physical, often trials and tribulations of building the physical world. And of course, we all know that the working with the virtual and the working with the mixed reality is so much of what we do in practicing for that moment when we actually get to build in the physical too, and where are the boundaries between. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from Amir about all of the sort of latest thinking, I would say, on that in that world. And I'm going to promptly hand over to you, Amir. I would just say to everybody, please put questions in the chat, as always. We will try to leave sort of 15-20 minutes at the end of the session, at the end of the hour, for questions or any comments or thoughts. Please don't hesitate to fill those into the chat, and we'll come to them in a bit. But without further ado, over to you, Amir.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for your introduction, and thanks for inviting me back at LSA. It's always great to be back in my previous university, where it always encourages, unconventional ways of practicing architecture, thinking about new ways of doing things and everything we learned in university. So it's a great opportunity here. And hello, everybody, and I hope you're well. I'm very excited to be here and talking about some very, very exciting topics about AI and XR, artificial intelligence, mixed reality, augmented reality, and all of that. The main focus of today's sort of presentation will be mainly on artificial intelligence, but we will go also to talk about opportunities in augmented reality, mixed reality, and basically the technologies that are evolving and emerging, and how, as architects, as a space designers, like spatial designers, we can work in sort of new realms of virtual world. Maybe I'm gonna start showing my screen, but before everything, I will go to some of my favorite works, and I'm sure some of Samantha's research has been on this. I mean, a lot of Samantha's research has been on Cedric Price's work, and I just want to quickly mention, the thinking behind some exceptional work that Cedric Price had done, either in concept or in reality. A lot of it was a kind of new way of doing things. It was something that nobody had done architecture in that way before, and it was unprecedented. And basically what he did was to utilize the technology also that was available at his time, the technologies like cybernetics and other things that kind of merge into a very interesting concept like the Fun Palace, which was a building with like scaffoldings, like a building that is always under construction. And the goal was that this building kind of self-corrects itself and learns itself about, different sort of interests of people for different activities, and form little spaces for them in order to, um, kind of put exhibitions, activities, other activities, so many things that people like to do in certain times of the day. So it was a very interesting way of thinking about a building that was, living, in a sense, like living and deciding for itself what to do, and deciding what was correct to do. So just thinking about, 1960s when Cedric Price was doing things with cybernetics technology. Fast forward to now that we have an advantage of living in a world where topics like artificial intelligence are, the amount of information we're gathering every day from what is possible is just like insane, especially throughout the last year. The developments in this field has been absolutely insane, and there are numerous ways of using artificial intelligence in design, either in architecture, in fashion design, in any creative sort of profession. There are numerous ways of integrating these technologies, these emerging technologies. And I would think that we're missing out if we don't really learn about them. So that's certainly one of the jobs that I have currently, because of the interest of architectural practices and people who are thinking, beyond their time. I'm also going to different practices to introduce them to what is possible to do with artificial intelligence now in their practices as well. So anyway, so today's title for presentation is Opportunities Enabled by Artificial Intelligence for Architects and Creatives. We will talk about augmented reality, mixed reality as well. But generally, we want to know what is happening with the world of artificial intelligence in design, what can be done, and basically where we are. But before even starting, I want to say we are living in an exceptionally interesting times, and I'm really glad that I'm living in this time, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 30 years. We can speculate on what's going to happen. We can be skeptical, and we can be hopeful, and but we really don't know. Everything is unknown to us in the future, but there is an excitement, there is a sense of exploration that I think, like, I have and many others have, to really, and curiosity that we have to see what will happen. But we are also part of this. We are also part of what is going to happen in the next 30 years. We can change, because this technology is so new, and everything that is happening in this world is so new, that we can have a massive influence on everything, in design, in architecture, in sustainability, in every topic that we think about. We can think about ways of integrating this technology and teaching other people to do it as well. So very interesting times. So the presentation would have introduction, AI in action. I'm going to show you what AI is capable of doing in action, and why to use AI at all, and then some case studies, and then some works about what I've been doing in my own design studio. And yeah, let's dive into it. So yeah, I don't want to go into introducing myself again, but briefly, my name is Amir, and I co-founded a company called AI Hub, which basically, what AI Hub is a company that aims to empower individuals and creatives with the power of technology, either in architecture practices, design practices, fashion brands, all of that, but also individuals who are maybe are talented, but they are not working with anyone. So we kind of connect these two together. We connect industry to talents as well. We provide trainings for companies like architecture companies. We have trained over 350 designers around the world. And we do also projects based on artificial intelligence for architecture practices as well. And also in my own design studio, architecture studio, we're specialized in designing spaces either in physical space or virtual space. But the aim is that we kind of blend the idea of reality and what's not real. And yeah, so I'm also a London School of Architecture alumni. And my expertise has been also in high-end retail and residential architecture and interiors. So just like a very brief introduction to why we think AI is very important, going back to architecture drafting in the 1950s, you can see like people wearing white uniforms with drafting boards. That was the manual way of drawing. There was kind of this kind of idea that everything has to be done with hands because there was no technology, and everything was so inefficient, we could say, at the time. And then we had the invention of CAD, which stands for computer aided design, and that meant that computers came to help us to be more accurate, to be more efficient, and taught us a new way of designing. Really, it was kind of different to what we did before. So we had to transfer our skills from manual to digital, and we had to learn how to communicate with computers, because that was a huge part of this process, communicating with computers, how to kind of design your buildings using computers. That was something that we were not used to, and people were not used to before. And then BIM came around, building information modeling, that kind of made us able to have every information that we could possibly have in a building in a computer screen. So we could, coordinate everything all together. And that was game changing for us architects, because we could be much more efficient and more sustainable, and we could manage our projects much easier. So it was like a revolution again in the world of architecture and construction. And basically what it was also teaching us how to coordinate data, how to communicate with computer with this new way of communication, essentially. And then I would compare AI to maybe these inventions or phenomenons, because AI is also teaching us a new way of communicating with computers, but very much different to what we saw before. What we saw previously was, very specific types of communicating with computers, learning to work with computers, but AI is introducing us to a whole new way of communication between humans and machines. And that is via language, that is via keywords, that is via speaking and typing. And that was not precedented before. And that is something that is going to change the way we design every day. So this is going to be integrated in every software that we use, everything that we currently use, either in Autodesk, sort of CAD, or like Rhino, or like your 3D or your renders. Every process is going to have some sort of AI into it. But all that sort of AI integration means that we will use a new way of communication, and that is by keywords, that is by language. So it's kind of a big deal, because we are introduced to this new way of working with computers and working with machines that we never used to before. And another reason why it's important is not because I say it, it's because most of the people who have a say in this world, in terms of like general AI, AGIs, or AI specifically in design, they're all saying one thing, and that is we are now witnessing the new spring of artificial intelligence. It's like whatever we saw up until now, you put it aside, and from now on, we are seeing like a renaissance of artificial intelligence again, and that is very powerful. Everyone is talking about this idea, and there must be something happening. And basically seeing the development of these tools throughout the last year. I remember like in June last year, I was playing around with a tool called Midjourney, which is one of the primary sort of generative AI tools that are used for generating images based on keywords. I used to kind of play around and put a few keywords to see if I can like design an interior for a project. And at the time I was working at an architecture practice, so I was thinking like, can I use this in the presentation for the client? How can I use this technology, for example? And at the time we were seeing like a tool which we could enter like different keywords and gave us like a blurry abstract image of some sort of representations of the keywords like plant, chandelier, minimalistic style, whatever, and gave us this kind of blurry abstract image. And at the time, like it was a year ago, it was shocking. It was like amazing. We were shocked in the office by the even this kind of level of abstract imagery that was led by a few keywords as an input. That was really interesting, but we didn't know really what to do with it. Like it was interesting, but it didn't really have much use in what we were doing. Fast forward to only like few months later, 9 months later, in March 2023, the exact same tool produced hyper realistic, detailed images of whatever you typed in. So if you said like a Georgian style interior, or like a chandelier by Iris Van Herpen, who is a fashion designer, who's not even an architectural designer or like a chandelier designer, it understood the style and converted into, or transformed it, or translated it into a form of a chandelier like this one, for example, or like Georgian style of details, the paneling, the window sort of panes and everything kind of were so accurate. Only 9 months, and that was just like me thinking about, okay, if we saw this development over the period of only 9 months, then what is going to happen in the next maybe 7 years until 2030? And my guess would be not far from your guess. And by the time purposely, I didn't change this slide because I kind of made this slide way back. But I didn't change it because at the time, like I made this slide maybe a few months ago. At the time I was saying, okay, maybe in 7 years time, we would get like instantaneous renders. Like when you type something instantly, you get a result. You would have full control over design. Maybe you would have you're able to change things in the image. You would have better interfaces because the tools and the interface were not really as compelling. And then you get hyper detailed images and also a 3D model. And I could say like now we have reached, like we have achieved most of these things, like instantaneous renders. A few days ago, a company called Krea released an AI tool, which basically essentially what you can do is to turn on your camera and show like an object like this bottle, for example, whatever. It will take the image live and turn it into live AI generated sort of imagery. So you could type in to say, I want this bottle to be whatever, a skyscraper in Dubai. And there you go. In live, you're seeing it in your computer. And that is insane. Like I expected this to happen in 7 years, but it happened only in a few months. And full control over design. Now Midjourney allows us to change things, like iterate things, feed in images of real products. If you have a project of a specific interior where you want to insert an image of a bathtub, for example, a specific bathtub that your client has signed up, you can do it now in like a mixture of workflows in different AI tools, and that's possible. Previously, it was not. You have much better interfaces. You have hyper detailed images. You can upscale an image in Midjourney to 4,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. That's like very large. That's like for like large printing purposes, really. And now there are really exciting news about tools that are able to generate 3D models. It's still not something that everyone can use. It's still in research, but very close to like a series of new tools to be released to generate us 3D tools based on keywords or based on images of a concept. Imagine you sketch something and the AI tool gives you a 3D model from your sketches, because that is possible now to create AI imagery based on sketches. But in a very near future, a 3D model, that's the next thing. So essentially what this means is that by very soon, I wouldn't say even 7 years, by very soon, probably in a few months even, I don't know. I don't know how fast this technology will evolve, but AI will be essentially taking over the design process. But that does not mean that AI itself will be doing the design work. No, that doesn't mean anything like that. It basically means that AI will be a tool in your arsenal to really practice design as a designer. It will empower you as a designer, empower you as an architect. I was at this I was at the Build Expo last week. I was trying to network with some people and try to explain what AI can do. And I was speaking to this wonderful lady from a particular architecture practice. I was saying, yeah, have you like explored any kind of AI tools and so on? And she was like, she wasn't really interested. And I said, you can be much more creative with AI. And she said, creative? Like AI can be creative than us? I was like, no, AI cannot be creative than you, but you using AI can be much more creative than you not using AI, because essentially what tools are there to help us, right? To help us be more efficient, be more creative. What could have been like, what could be achieved without computers? Like very little. I mean, if you compare our achievements in, the sort of design world after and before computers, there's so much that we have achieved, right? So AI is not a competitor. It's a friend that you could take advice from, or you could ask for help. It won't do your cooking, but it can help you with your design. Maybe in future cooking as well. But anyway, so let's see some examples of real world examples of using AI in your architecture work, for example. One of the really good sort of scenarios for using AI in architecture is iteration and sort of generating variations of different designs. So for example, if you have a project and you want to like try a kind of new design for the facade of your building or some particular element in your building, AI is really good at producing images really fast, so that you could see different forms of maybe doing the facade based off on your inputs. So you say, I want my facade to be like circular windows with copper cladding and so on, and AI will do that for you. So much more simple and easier way of doing it, rather than going to your 3D model, changing it. Essentially, you can even do it while your client is sitting and kind of go through different sketches of different options of facade. The other thing that is very interesting that AI can do is turn your sketches into high quality render-like images, because a lot of us are really good at sketching, but we don't necessarily have time to go to produce 3D models or to produce renders, because that is a cost, that is cost in terms of money as well as someone's time, either us or someone in the practice. But clients also don't understand sketches a lot of the time. So what we recommend is like using AI to turn the images into something else that the client can understand at least. Many people might say that sketching has its own quality and is kind of nice to present sketches at the early stage of projects, and I agree, and I completely agree. I propose sketches to clients all the time when I was in architecture practice that I was working on, and in fact I was in charge of that. But I would also agree with those who say my client doesn't understand some of the sketches that I sent to them. I want something more realistic so that they can kind of see what I'm talking about. So that is like, in terms of time, you like to know like how long this takes. This takes less than 5 minutes, less than 2-3 minutes, even. It depends like what you want to do. But if you wanted to actually go and design this thing with a 3D model and so on, that would take you ages. Another example of how you could do like very simple sketches of a concept, for example, and turn it into very realistic, beautiful, and atmospheric images using some of the AI tools that are available. So it's not about taking your place, it's about empowering you to do things. This is another example of an interior from sketch to AI again. And this is a very interesting example by someone else that has kind of shown, like, demonstrated this workflow of how they use AI in a real project, in a real world scenario. So the scenario is, imagine you have a site, and that site is here, like this sort of block of shop that you want to turn this into like an apartment or something, which is like unlikely to get planning permission, right? But anyway, so you want to do that, and what you have is an image of a site, of the site that you have, which is this image. And what you do as an architect usually is to maybe trace over the site. That's what we do, right? We go over the site to sketch some ideas. While our hands are on paper, we can think about different sort of nuances. We can integrate into our design, and what is this building going to look like? How is it going to relate to the context, and so on, right? So what you do is to take your tracing paper and put it on top of the image that you have for the site, and sketch over your concept proposal. And what you do next is to feed this into AI. And what AI would do would take your sketch, place it into the context, the exact site, and would generate different variations. And those variations can be very precise to your sketch, or can be less precise, depending on what you tell AI to do. And you could change the materiality, you could change for example, the reflections on the glass, everything can be sort of modified and edited and so on. So you have like endless variations of things that you can generate in a very efficient manner. And at the end, you have your proposal, which is like a rough proposal, but nevertheless, it does the job. It kind of showcases your idea, to presents your idea to your clients, or at least some early versions of your idea to your client, so that they can understand what you're talking about without you spending so much time and effort and money on 3D modeling or visualization, while you don't even know if you're going to get this project or not sometimes. So maybe you're pitching. This is another very interesting example of how we could use simple sketching in an image, like in this interior image. Basically, what we've done is um, like taking these lines, I mean, drawing them by mouse essentially, and feeding it into AI on top of a real example of a living room, a real image, and you could see it generates very realistic furniture for you in sort of very short amount of time. The other thing you could do, turn your 3D models into AI. You don't have to have like massive computer sort of spec for renders anymore, because AI can do it for you. You don't have to have amazing laptops or graphic cards and all of that. All you need is a kind of subscription to an AI tool, for example, Stable Diffusion, and take your 3D model and feed it into the AI tool and tell AI what you want to imagine in different sort of walls or ceilings and so on. Another example of an integration of AI in Revit. This is the Revit model, and then on the right is the AI tool rendering the Revit model in the context with materials. Again, a very simple sort of plain model of an interior, a very highly detailed and furnished image of the same interior. If you're doing a master planning project, you can easily, use it to visualize different forms and different sort of color schemes for presenting maybe your master planning scheme when you have the model in 3D in SketchUp, or if you even have it in sketch format, you can sketch it as well. So these are for presentation purposes. There are also AIs that help you to calculate things, to calculate the smallest elements of a master planning project to the largest ones. So there are like AI for every part of your process. AI can be used to generate, for example, mood boards, material palettes for clients to understand what you're thinking about in terms of materiality and all of that. I got a question asking which tool was used for the sketching painting. So that was a Stable Diffusion for the in painting that I showed, and using ControlNet as an extension to control the sketch. I will talk about it in the presentation later as well. And yeah, so for material palettes as well, you could use AI to show your clients, these are what I'm thinking, without them actually seeing the material palettes first, because they might not like it and you might want to change it, and then like order the materials later on so that they can have a feeling for what they feel like. But that's the kind of the first thing you could do as an introduction to your ideas. Another purpose of using AI could be for creative intent. So a lot of my time sometimes is spent on thinking about the future of what we will be doing, for example, as architects in the world of mixed reality, because companies like Apple, companies like Facebook, they are all in for concepts of metaverse and virtual reality and all of that, and they're investing huge money on building these equipments and these really powerful sort of VR glasses that immerse people in virtual worlds. So it's not really far so that we could say that we will have AR, augmented reality, integrated in our day-to-day life. There might be instances, because these glasses are becoming less heavy, less chunky, and easier to wear. And by probably a few years or even a year or so, we will have better equipment for these things. So the question that I ask myself sometimes is, what would be our role as architects and spatial designers in the world where augmented reality and virtual reality are embedded in our everyday sort of workflows? Imagine in workplace, because, for example, Apple product, the Vision Pro sort of headset is designed for basically work. It's designed for offices, for people who want to work, because there are so many things. It's basically designed for businesses really, rather than like private individuals. So imagine like you go to a company where people are using VR in their everyday life to interact with each other. They are in a same office, but they have their fellows and colleagues who are working remotely next to them in the virtual or augmented reality glasses, so they can see them next to them as they're working, because that makes the working much easier. They are seeing them while they are like doing their own whatever thing, and you're doing your thing, and you're communicating with each other. It's like they are there, but they're not. But what are the other possibilities that we can think about? Can we utilize augmented reality and virtual reality for well-being and health? For example, if there are so many like dull office spaces, or like very boring office spaces, that they don't have even like green space, or very um, so much of natural light and all of that, can you create an environment in the augmented reality that, for example, through that wall, you could design a whole window that opens up to a fantasy garden, or like a kind of a really nice landscape with so much natural light, so that it kind of boosts the people's well-being, or design activities around this sort of office. What are the possibilities as space designers, as people who are spatial designers, architects? We have to think about these ideas, and the easiest way to visualize these ideas is now using AI tools, right? So utilizing AI is much easier for us to think about creative concepts, to think about creative projects, what we can do in that scenario. For example, there is like a huge debate on like retail spaces. What can we do for retail spaces? How can we reinvent retail spaces? How can we reinvent high streets? These are things that can be done utilizing AI to kind of let your creativity flourish, like let your creativity to do whatever it wants to do without any limits. And how you can do it, it is possible to do it with pen and paper, but it is, I promise you, it's much exciting to do it via a tool like AI that kind of gives you unlimited sort of creativity. So I would like encourage people to think about real world issues, real world sort of scenarios that we as architects we have to constantly think about. I had a conversation with this researcher in Google DeepMind, who are basically developing Google's artificial intelligence tools, and he was saying he's a lead, so he was saying like, I understand you guys in architecture and design world are using tools like Midjourney and so on to produce beautiful, quote unquote, beautiful images, but isn't your role like architects to solve problems? And there are so many problems in the built environment that needs to be done. Why you're not using AI and utilizing AI to actually help you with solving problems? And I thought like, yeah, like why are we just obsessed about aesthetics and beauty? I mean, that's cool. I mean, we love doing that, and that is definitely no problem for that. But in a way that like we have so much powerful tools. It's like having Einstein's brain um, available to you to kind of ask any questions, or someone really knowledgeable, or kind of very powerful being that is able to help you with anything. So my sort of idea, and what I'm trying to say is, how can we use AI in solving the problems that we have talked about solving for decades? How can we use AI to kind of tackle homelessness, for example, and things like that, and many other things that we have to think about. I'm aware that I'm also short of time. I'm gonna quickly wrap up and then give sort of the room for questions. But why use AI? efficiency, creativity, quality, the main things. And also case studies. Yeah, so like we went into different practices, such as this really interesting practice who are specialized in yacht interiors. And one of the key things we did was to tell them how they could use AI in their practice, and they use it for projects that they were doing in Neon, for example, the interior parts of the Neon projects. And they said that they saved thousands of pounds so far within like the few months that we've trained them. And they won major projects using AI because they could use AI in their initial concept stage to really tease the client, see, you know, this is what we can do for you. And it wasn't really a lie as well, because they were like a well-established practice. They are able to do awesome things, and clients really like their concept. So, and they used AI to really tease the clients a very short amount of time in the beginning of the project, and win so many new projects. This is another project we did for a London-based architectural practice, where they wanted to do like a render on this clay model that they had. And we turned this clay model into this within like a few minutes. And that is like a work, at least like a few days work of a visualization expert to give materials, to apply materials, to kind of do post-production and all of that, and costs a lot of money for them. And this is just with like few minutes of, you know, using an AI tool to transfer from this to this. And yeah, I won't go much into my work at E10 Studio. I'm more interested to answer questions. But we have done a few projects in different countries, real world projects in Mall of Emirates for a company called Shiseido. Some of the ladies might know, recognize the name. They're a cosmetic brand. But we always kind of utilize sketching as well, you know, for producing material palettes to really take the client through different stages of work. And not it wasn't just like going into Midjourney, typing some random stuff and coming with a concept. Using AI means that you have to constantly think about all these design decisions that goes into your design. This is another VR project, a VR project that we did in Spain. It's available to see if you go to decohub.io. Anyway, yeah, so these are some of the works, and I would be interested to answer some questions. And if we have time, I would also like to do like an interactive exercise together as well. Let's answer some questions first, and then wrap up.
Great. Thanks so much, Amir. I think you set up some amazing, well, you gave us some good background into the time we are in, and also set up some really amazing tensions that there are implied within using tools and using technology. I mean, architects and makers, and we've always used a form of technology, but because that's what we do, whether it's, you know, from axe to hammer to chainsaw to computer, and those tools, as you so rightly emphasize, are always actually in the designer's hands. They're not entirely autonomous. However much we talk about AI becoming autonomous, that you've set up a very clear case for why designers have a very important role, and architects particularly. Well, designers have an important role in feeding instruction and where that instruction goes. So thank you for doing that. I think the other thing you really emphasize is, or question, or raise the question, which is something that comes up in every evolution of technology, whether it's from, you know, physical to information to digital, you know, what becomes, you know, what is the role of the architect and in that. And it's so interesting to compare, and I think you said it at one point, you know, we're obsessed with aesthetics, and I think my sense is at the moment we're not really obsessed with aesthetics. I think part of us in one part of our world is drawn to an aesthetic, a certain kind of aesthetic through advertising, marketing, that media. But perhaps in architecture we're less obsessed because of the kind of concern with producing certain kinds of buildings. However, the aesthetic question kind of comes in, it sort of shifts that timeline, doesn't it? And what you're implying with the use of AI as a tool is that it completely changes the sort of design timeline. The fact that you can sketch, essentially it's another form of sketch, so quickly, so early on in a design process, suggests that then the rest of that design process becomes quite different. And it's probably the subject of another talk entirely, I'm sure. But what you sort of present us with is that very first moment, which in sort of previous iterations has taken longer to get to, or taken longer to think through. So I just think it raises really, really fascinating questions in that respect, and how we sort of adjust our timeline of design thinking. That's my sort of immediate response to lots of what you said. So thank you for raising lots of those questions. I'm going to go straight to a few of the questions we've had. We've got about 9 minutes, which isn't very long, and whether we get an exercise in or not is we'll try and get there. But look, the first one is, what are your thoughts on plagiarism, intellectual property when it comes to AI? This is something that comes up a lot, particularly in education. It's something that we think about quite a lot. There's lots of pushback from artists and creatives when their style becomes plagiarized and used without their consent through AI generators. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's a concern for everybody in the kind of design sort of world, isn't it? And I think there's no right or wrong answer to that, but there are ways to think about it, and that is through, like, there are multiple practices that are developing their own database of AI-fed imagery. For example, I know that Zaha Hadid has their own, or Foster's, they're building their own. These are like big companies, corporations that are using their own set of data sets of their previous projects, their kind of lost competitions, won competitions, all of their imagery, and putting into an AI model to train the AI model, so that the AI model is completely theirs, and that the data is also trained on, the model is trained on their own data, and they kind of own the images as well. So it's kind of a private AI for a specific company that at the end of the day also creates specific styles of work that is sort of tailored to that company. And that's a certainly good question about sort of hijacking styles of different people. It's interesting. There was an article, an interview with Patrick Schumacher, the director and principal of Zaha Hadid, and he was saying that they use AI for like maybe majority of their projects. I'm not sure about the percentage, but he said that people in Zaha Hadid use the keyword Zaha Hadid in their sort of AI prompting, and that was interesting because how people are using the keywords like Zaha Hadid architecture, which is like a very popular sort of architecture style, is making like even the AI algorithms also more stronger in getting to know Zaha Hadid's style, because what machine learning essentially is a learning sort of machine that kind of self-corrects and self-learns. So if there are like a huge data set on a particular image or subject or whatever, it kind of learns from that much better than it learns from other styles. So what happens to lesser known styles that, for example, if you type in Cedric Price, nothing will kind of, and no influence whatsoever will come in Midjourney, because no one is typing Cedric Price as much as they do when they write like Zaha Hadid, for example. So it's yeah, I mean, people like companies like Midjourney, like the main sort of AI tools are going through um, uh, sort of periods of really thinking about AI sort of ethics and safety and all of that, and they're kind of coming with some solutions, some ideas for it. But it's a very early technology, it's a very new technology, and so many things will evolve like others throughout the time. But at the moment, what I encourage everyone is to embrace it. In the university and education, I think there is a kind of really clear line between plagiarism and sort of owning your work. And previously, we also used platforms like Pinterest and everything, even like movies that we saw or like books that we read. We kind of found some influences from those resources, and consciously or unconsciously those led to our design decisions in our projects. And I guess with AI is also maybe something similar, and but it's a kind of new way of maybe demonstrating it. I wouldn't really encourage students in a studio to come up only with like AI imagery and say, this is our project. I would really ask them, what their project is all about, what are the aims of solving these problems, because an AI imagery is just an imagery. It doesn't really have anything to say unless you kind of build this narrative and build this sort of a way of working with it so that you really own it in different ways. And it has becoming much easier to own really this process as we talk, because there are new sort of tools coming that lets you practice hybrid workflows using Sketch to AI and like or reverse whatever, and that is empowering people to invent their own workflows, their own way of owning the tool instead of letting AI to be loose and do whatever it wants. And for any students who is interested in this stuff, I'm running a workshop also from tomorrow. So if you want to like learn more in-depth insight about how you could actually own this tool and not let AI to take control over your tool, this would be a kind of good opportunity for you to understand all of these kind of nuances. You're mute, I think, Samantha.
I'm muted. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. I am very conscious. I've got two more questions and we've got literally 2 minutes. So they're going to be speedy responses, please. I also have someone with their hand up. But I want to try to squeeze these. One is probably a quick yes, no. But how accessible is AI for people? Are there inherent barriers in terms of paying for the software and being able to use it as a student or non-architect, for example?
Very accessible. Some of them that are free, some of them that are very low cost, like $10 a month.
Amazing. There you go. That's a good answer. Okay, and then this one is a little bit more complex, but let's try to hit it. There will be a point where data does take on development. Raw data is needed for environmental studies, ME, etc. When we get to that point of good enough, if I were a client looking to save money, what would stop me from choosing good enough with somebody writing prompts and signing off on it over a designer actually using it as a tool? So I think this is a question really about quality. How do we know whether what we're looking at or what we're really signing off is qualitatively better or just sufficient and more efficient?
Yeah, that's certainly a good question. I think AI also comes with, the way of you really owning the workflow, as I said. And so in terms of quality, we don't rely on AI to tell us, what is good or bad. I think that is, judgment that can be made by really us. I mean, generally, if you say like a beautiful image, like write a kind of prompt for a beautiful image, AI bias towards beauty is very different to, for example, my bias to beauty might be. And certainly also like people of color find it like challenging to produce like a beautiful image of a woman in like a black color skin, which like is a shame, right? Like there is a bias in these sort of tools that kind of are towards like quality and so on. And so it's like at the end of the day, if I understood the question quite rightly, correctly, I would say it's at the end of the day, it's again our own judgment of quality. Somebody signing off on it over architect using machine learning as an actual tool in their design. We cannot really rely on AI on taking real decisions like that. I think there should be always an architect who ensures that these sort of productions that are coming out of AI are good quality because they have done practice. They kind of know. I don't know if I understood the question properly,
No,
but
I think you've again, you sort of reinforced that, there's still the role of the design and the architect.
yeah,
This is not about relinquishing all control.
exactly.
It's keep reiterating it's a tool. And I think you said it again, we're also looking at images. We're not looking at technical designs. We're not looking at other kinds of problem solving. Some questions have sort of touched on, social issues. How do we start to kind of think about the use of AI in that context? So I think it's just really setting that context all the time of what one's looking at and how it's being produced, and explaining that in the same way that one explains a sketch by hand. It's a similar form of interpretation. So I think that's really, really clear. Thank you so much. I'm going to. There is one person with their hand up. I have broken my golden rule, which is to go past 2:00, but I can't bear to not respond to somebody who has put their hand up. I'm not sure how I do this because we've never done it before, and Zafir may tell me I can't respond to the person with their hand up, but I'm going to try for 30 seconds.
They can speak up maybe.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Hi.
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 Yes. So you mentioned the use of AI in sustainability. My experience with AI is very little yet, but I found that it's not very consistent with its answers. Not like generative design where you put parameters and you get all the right answers, so it's iterative. So I'm still not very clear on how we can use AI in sustainability where we're dealing with numbers and data. So could you expand on that, please?
Sure. There are multiple different AI tools for different purposes. So basically what we covered today was more for like generative AI in terms of text to image AI and so on. So there are so many different tools for BIM, for example, so many AI tools for master planning. And those tools will help us with sustainability, with kind of quantity surveying, like really thinking about materiality and finding the best materials, sustainable materials, and all of that. And there will be even more of that coming in the future, in the near future. So I would say there's a range of really different tools. We are still, far behind in maybe sustainability in AI as much as, we are really kind of developed in terms of imagery. But there are really kind of really interesting tools coming up, specifically by like these kind of large companies like Autodesk and these companies that own a lot of our workflows. So we should have an eye on them as well.
Great, thank you very much. I hope that answers the question there. So I think a session on AI in performance and performance improvement in all sorts of areas could be really interesting too. And I'm sure it'll become almost developing as we speak. Just for everybody's general interest, this week's New Yorker is all about AI, which is fascinating because it gives it, it's got articles about, a lot of the background and how we've come to where we are. With this particular technology, which is, as Amir has described so well, so new and so pioneering, and we are at the forefront. And I'm so excited to hear somebody speak enthusiastically and optimistically. Often we are terrified. The media tells us to be terrified of pretty well everything. So I think as designers, it is our duty to not be, and to embrace and learn to master some of these tools so that we can use them responsibly and effectively. So thanks so much, Amir, for helping us do that. And hopefully you will return very soon, hopefully in reality to the studio. That would be even better. Thanks everybody.
Awesome.
Great, thanks. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. We are now running 4 minutes over, so I will say goodbye and look forward to seeing you all next week. I think we have guests from Grimshaw and Partners, so look out for that notice. But yes, we will be here next Thursday with another talk. Thanks so much, everyone. Cheerio.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.